Hi everyone, this is Venkatesh from ThinkETL. In this video, let us understand what are user-defined functions in Informatica Cloud. Let us start with its definition. User-defined functions in Informatica Cloud are reusable functions that can be used in field expressions. They allow you to create and store complex transformation logic using built-in functions and reuse them across mappings. So let us understand with a simple example, right? So the basic scenario which we come across all our projects is to trim the spaces. So we apply ltrim rtrim of the input field to trim the spaces present in the input field. So instead we could create a user defined function which does this job for us and call this function every time instead of we manually putting ltrim rtrim to trim the spaces for us. So in this video, let us understand how to create UDFs in Informatica Cloud, how to use them in the mappings once they are created, and also explain certain real-time use cases of user-defined functions in the Informatica Cloud projects. So let's start by building a user-defined functions. So I'm in my data integration homepage. Click on new, go to components, and you'll find a user-defined function. Select it and click create. So in the first general tab, it will be asked to give a name to it. So let's discuss about the use case scenario which we wanted to do. So along with ltrim rtrim, I also wanted to convert my input field to an uppercase. Okay, so let's name it as convert upper and trim spaces. Okay, I would like to move it to my default. So the return type would be string. Click on arguments. So we need to create an argument which is basically the input argument which we are going to pass to this UDF. So it could be anything. Let me call it input field. It is of type string. Click OK. Go to the expression. Here is the expression which we need to define here. So what we are trying to do? We are trying to do ltrim rtrim of our input field. Also we want to do an upper on top of it. Okay, let's validate it. Okay, there is a mistake here. Let me correct that soon. So the expression is valid and let's save it. So the user defined functions is saved successfully. Now let's create a mapping to use this one. Let me select a source. It would be my employee table. Now let's add an expression here. Now let's create a field. Let's call it underscore first name of type 100. This is just for demonstration purpose. Now we can find the user defined functions here. So there are several user defined functions already present here. So here is a user defined function. Let me select the field as first name here. Validate it. Click OK. Now let's preview the data. Instead of me running the mapping and seeing the output, we can see the output right away just by using the preview feature. Okay, here is our output. So as you can see, my first name is Steven in a camel case, but my final output is converted into an uppercase. If there are any spaces, they are also trimmed. So instead of me writing the upper of ltrim rtrim of the input field every time, I could simply use this function. So let us inspect the function here. Okay, so similar to unconnected lookups, right? When you are using an unconnected lookup, similar kind of format will be given. So whenever you are using a UDF, you have to use a colon UDF dot followed by the UDF name and the input arguments. So when you select it from the user defined functions, it will automatically give you all this format available. All you have to do is select the input argument here. Now let us discuss some real-time use cases. So this might seem like a very simple scenario, right? You might be thinking why I should create a user defined function. for simply creating it to uppercase and trim the spaces. This is just for demonstration purpose, but let us understand some real-time use cases which would help us building these. So this is one another example which is already available in our blog post, where we are trying to get date from a timestamp field. Okay, so the user-defined function, the input is a date type. I created another field of type date. Date time field is the argument name, and this is the timestamp field basically, and I'm trying to extract the date field from it. So in one of the mapping in the expression transformation, I created field name updated date and called this user defined function and pass this updated date time. And here is the output. So my updated date time contains a timestamp in it, but when I used a user defined function, the output contains only the date part. So let's discuss some real-time use cases, right? So one of the use cases is setting default values for your missing and null data. So this is the scenario where there is no standardization usually in the projects, where some person tries to set it as a NA, some person tries to give a not available, some person keeps it in uppercase, lowercase. When there is no proper standard set, everyone could build their own default values when there is a not null field, right? So instead we can create an UDF name called set default value for null and just use that value every time we need a default value. So it will check whether the field is null or not. If it is null, it will take the value as NA or whatever value you define it for the default value. If not, it will take the actual input field. Similarly, another use case is creating a master data list. Let's say there is a standard data. In this example, the data repository used is the country code versus country currencies. These are usually standard and wouldn't change. So in such cases, there is no need to create another lookup table in your database and always try to look up there and get the data and do a lookup to get the output value of your currency. Instead, we can build a data repository within the UDF. As I showed, this is the UDF expression. So the input argument would be the country name. So you can simply call, instead of calling a lookup or an unconnected lookup, you can simply use this UDF and pass your country code, and it would automatically give you what is the currency of it. So another major example of using user-defined functions is using regular expressions. So one such example is removing special characters in your data. Let's say you are receiving some user data like from Salesforce or somewhere, where there would be usually customer remarks. There could be smileys, there could be some unprintable characters which are present in the data, which you want to push to the database, but database doesn't allow it. So it is required to remove them. So you can simply create a user-defined function which would remove the special characters in your data. So you need not even expose this logic to anyone. You can build a user-defined function and simply use this user-defined function in your mappings, as simply call this UDF using as remove special characters and pass your input fields, and it will automatically remove your unprintable characters or special characters and turn them into null for you. And it's not only this, anything involving regular expressions can be easily built within the user-defined function and can be reused across the mappings. And another one is building complex formulae, right? So in this example, I have chosen calculating monthly mortgage payment. So as you can see, the formula is quite complex. So if you have to implement the same across multiple mappings, instead you can have this built in a user-defined function. And in this example also, we are passing multiple arguments. There are 3 inputs required for it. One is principal amount, the interest rate, and loan tenure. So when you actually use it in the mapping, you call this UDF and pass these 3 input fields coming from the source, and the formula would be automatically applied and you will get the monthly mortgage payment amount. So these are some of the real-time use cases of user-defined functions. They bring a lot of value if you actually use them right way. They bring the consistency, reusability, flexibility, and if any change you have to do, let's say in future you have to add another country here, the changes would be automatically populated. Instead, if you have used this decode statement within your mapping, let's say in multiple mappings, you have to go and manually adjust all the mappings, right? Here instead, you can directly go and update the UDF with the new country and new currency, and it would automatically populate to all the mappings using it. So that's another major advantage. So any changes done on the UDF, if they are valid, will be automatically populated to all the mappings which are using that UDF. Okay. So that's it about the user-defined functions. So let us know what are the use cases which you think might be much more useful for using user-defined functions. This entire data is available in our website called ThinkETL. You can go and read this entire blog in detail to understand more about the user-defined functions. And please also do follow us on Instagram. This is our Instagram page where we create a curated content for Informatica enthusiasts. So you can come and check out our Instagram page and like us here. You can also follow us on LinkedIn, where we have a separate page where we post regularly about various Informatica details here. That's it in this video. Please like, share and subscribe. Thank you. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.